there comes a moment in your life when the noise has to stop, when the excuses that once sounded reasonable begin to feel like chains around your potential, when you finally realize that the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is not luck, not talent, not timing, but your willingness to act. And in that moment, something shifts inside you, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like a switch being flipped in the dark. You begin to see clearly. You begin to understand that complaining has never built anything, that wishing has never changed anything, and that waiting has never made anyone great. Because the truth is, the world does not respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you are willing to work for. And yet, so many people stay trapped in a cycle of frustration, endlessly talking about what's wrong, what's unfair, what didn't go their way. They replay their disappointments like a broken record, convincing themselves that their circumstances are unique, that their struggles are heavier, that their path is somehow more difficult than everyone else's. But while they're talking, while they're explaining, while they're complaining, time is moving, opportunities are passing, and someone else somewhere is executing. You see, complaining feels productive because it releases emotion. It gives you the illusion that you're doing something about your situation. But in reality, it keeps you exactly where you are. It anchors you in the problem instead of pushing you toward the solution. And the longer you stay there, the heavier it becomes, until one day you're not just stuck, you're buried. Think about it. Every great achievement you admire, every success story that inspires you, none of it was built on complaints. It was built on action, on uncomfortable, relentless, often invisible work. It was built in the early mornings when no one was watching, in the late nights when exhaustion whispered quit, in the moments that when doubt crept in and tried to convince them they weren't enough. But instead of stopping, instead of talking, they moved step by step, decision by decision, action by action. And that's the difference. Because life doesn't reward intention, it rewards execution. There are people who have less than you, less resources, less support, less opportunity, and yet they find a way, not because they are special, not because they are chosen, but because they refuse to sit still and complain about what they don't have. They focus on what they can control. They take ownership of their situation. And most importantly, they act. Execution is not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause in the beginning. It's repetitive, it's demanding, and sometimes it feels like you're moving forward without seeing results. But that's where most people give up. That's where the talkers separate from the doers. Because the ones who succeed understand something most people don't. Progress is often invisible before it becomes undeniable. And if you look closely at your own life, you'll see it too. All the ideas you've had, all the plans you've made, all the times you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow. Those moments didn't fail because you weren't capable. They failed because you didn't execute. It's not about knowing what to do. Most people already know. They know they need to work harder, stay consistent, stay disciplined. They know they need to wake up earlier, stop procrastinating, stop wasting time. Knowledge is not the problem. The problem is the gap between knowing and doing. And that gap is where dreams go to die. But it doesn't have to be that way. Because the moment you decide to stop explaining your situation and start changing it, everything begins to shift. Not instantly, not magically, but steadily. You start building momentum. You start creating evidence for yourself that you can move forward. And with every small action, your confidence grows, not from words, but from proof. There is a story of a man who failed over and over again, rejected, overlooked, told that his ideas would never work. At one point, he was so broke he couldn't even afford basic necessities. Most people in that situation would have complained endlessly about how unfair life was. But he didn't. He kept going. He kept creating. He kept executing. And eventually, his persistence turned into one of the most influential success stories in history. Not because he had it easy, but because he refused to stay still. And that's the reality you have to face. No one is coming to fix your situation. No one is responsible for your growth except you. And the longer you wait for the perfect moment, the more you delay the life you say you want. So the question becomes, how long are you going to keep talking about it? How long are you going to keep telling yourself that you'll start when things are easier, when you have more time, when you feel more ready? Because that moment is not coming. What is? Coming is another day, another opportunity, another chance to either stay the same or take action. And the choice is yours. Now, the real journey begins when you decide that complaining is no longer an option. When you draw a line in your life and say, from this point forward, I execute. And that decision, as simple as it sounds, is one of the most powerful shifts you will ever make, because it forces you to confront the truth about yourself, your habits, and your mindset in a way that nothing else can. And once you step into that truth, there is no going back. And once you step into that truth, there is no going back, because now you see it. Now you understand that every delay, every excuse, every moment you spent complaining was not protecting you. It was holding you back. And that realization doesn't comfort you. It challenges you. It demands more from you. It forces you to look at your reflection and ask a question that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. If not now, then when? Because deep down, you already know what needs to be done. You don't need another lecture, another video, another reminder. You need movement. You need action. You need to take that first step, even when it feels small, even when it feels insignificant, even when it feels like it won't change anything. Because that's how it begins, not with a giant leap, but with a decision followed by action. And the moment you take that step, something powerful happens. You break the cycle. You interrupt the pattern of hesitation that has been controlling your life for so long. You prove to yourself that you are not stuck, that you are capable, that you can move forward. But don't mistake this for an easy path. Execution is not comfortable. It will test you in ways that complaining never could. It will expose your weaknesses, your insecurities, your lack of discipline. It will force you to confront the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding. And there will be days when you feel like quitting, when progress feels slow, when the results you expected don't show up. That's when most people fall back into old habits. That's when they start complaining again about how hard it is, how long it's taking, how nothing is working. But the ones who succeed, they understand something different. They understand that discomfort is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you are growing. Think about the story of a man who spent years failing, experimenting, trying to create something that had never been done before. He faced rejection after rejection, failure after failure. And at one point, he had thousands of attempts that didn't work. Most people would have given up long before that. Most people would have said, this isn't for me. But he didn't. He kept going. And when asked about his failures, he said something that changed the way people think about success forever. He didn't fail thousands of times. He found thousands of ways that didn't work. That mindset, that refusal to complain, that commitment to execution is what eventually led to one of the greatest inventions in history. And that's the difference between those who talk and those who do. Execution requires you to shift your perspective, to stop seeing obstacles as barriers and start seeing them as part of the process, to stop expecting perfection and start embracing progress, because perfection will paralyze you, but progress will move you forward. There is another story of a man who was told over and over again that he wasn't good enough. He failed in business, lost elections, faced personal tragedies that would have broken most people. At one point, his life looked like a series of disappointments stacked on top of each other. But he didn't stop. He didn't sit there complaining about how unfair life had been. He kept going. He kept pushing. And eventually that same man became one of the most respected leaders in history, not because he avoided failure, but because he refused to let failure define him. And that's what execution does. It builds resilience. It strengthens your mindset. It turns pain into power and struggle into growth. But here's the part most people don't want to hear. Execution requires sacrifice. It requires you to give up the comfort of excuses. It requires you to let go of the habits that are keeping you average. It requires you to say no to distractions, to people, to things that don't align with your goals. And that's not easy, because comfort is seductive. It whispers to you, telling you to relax, to wait, to take it easy. But growth Growth demands something different. It demands discipline. It demands consistency. It demands that you show up even when you don't feel like it. Because feelings are temporary, but results are permanent. And if you rely on how you feel, you will never be consistent. You will only act when it's convenient, when it's comfortable, when it's easy. But the truth is, the most important actions in your life will almost never feel convenient. They will feel difficult. They will feel uncomfortable. They will feel like work. And that's exactly why they matter. Execution is about doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. It's about building a standard for yourself that is higher than your excuses. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't wait for motivation, but creates momentum through action. Because motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. But discipline. Discipline, you no longer need to rely on bursts of inspiration. You become consistent. You become focused. You become unstoppable in a way that most people will never understand, because most people never get to that level. They stay stuck in a cycle of starting and stopping, of talking and not doing, of dreaming without executing. But not you, not anymore. Because now you see it. Now you understand that every moment you spend complaining is a moment you could be building something, that every excuse you make is a step away from the life you want, and that the only way forward is through action. So you start showing up every day, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but consistently. You start doing the work even when it's boring, even when it's repetitive, even when no one is watching, and slowly things begin to change. Your mindset shifts, your confidence grows, your results start to reflect your effort. And the person you used to be, the one who complained, who hesitated, who waited, begins to fade away, because you are becoming someone else, someone who executes, someone who takes control, someone who refuses to stay stuck. And that transformation, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens through daily decisions, through small actions repeated over time, through a commitment to keep going no matter what. So when the doubts come back, and when the voice in your head tries to pull you back into old patterns, you remind yourself why you started. You remind yourself of the life you want, of the goals you set, of the person you are becoming. And then you do something powerful. You act again and again and again until action becomes your identity. And then something even deeper begins to happen, something that most people will never experience, because most people never stay consistent long enough to see it. You start to build an internal strength that no external situation can shake. You begin to realize your power was never in perfect condition. It was always in your ability to act despite imperfect ones. And that realization changes everything, because now when life throws obstacles in your path, you don't stop to complain about them. You move through them. When things don't go your way, you don't waste time asking why me. You ask what now? And that simple shift in perspective transforms you from a passive participant in your life into someone who takes control of it. There's a reason why so many people remain stuck for years, even decades, without making real progress. It's not because they lack intelligence or opportunity. It's because they never fully commit to execution. They hesitate. They overthink. They wait for clarity before taking action, not realizing that clarity comes from action itself. And by the time they finally decide to move, they've already lost valuable time. But you're no longer operating like that. You understand now that action creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence. You understand that the path becomes clearer with every step you take, not before. And most importantly, you understand that the cost of inaction is far greater than the cost of failure. Because failure teaches you, it sharpens you, it forces you to grow. But inaction leaves you exactly where you are, with nothing but regret and what ifs echoing in your mind. And regret is heavy. It's the weight of knowing you could have done more, been more, achieved more, but did it. It's the quiet realization that time kept moving while you stayed still. And no one wants to carry that weight. No one wants to look back on their life and wonder what could have been. So you make a decision, not once, but every single day. You decide that you will no longer negotiate with your excuses. You decide that you will no longer let temporary feelings dictate permanent outcomes. You decide that you will show up no matter what. And that's where greatness begins. Not in talent, not in luck, not in perfect circumstances, but in daily, relentless execution. There was once a young man who dreamed of building something bigger than himself, something that would impact millions of people. But in the beginning, no one believed in him. He was told his ideas were unrealistic, that he didn't have what it takes, that he should play it safe and settle for something ordinary. And for a moment, he listened. For a moment, he doubted himself, but then he made a choice to stop listening to the noise, to stop complaining about the lack of support, and to start working with what he had. He worked in silence. He failed in private. He learned, adjusted, and kept going. Day after day, year after year, he executed while others talked. And eventually the same people who doubted him began to notice. Not because he convinced them with words, but because he showed them results. That's the power of execution. It speaks louder than anything you could ever say. And the same principle applies to your life. You don't need to convince the world of your potential. You don't need to explain your vision to everyone around you. You don't need approval to start. You just need to act, because when you execute consistently, your results will eventually speak for you. They will silence the doubts, the criticism, the negativity. They will prove without a single word that you are capable of more. But it starts with you. It starts with a commitment to do the work, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels like no one cares. Because at the end of the day, this journey is not about them, it's about you. It's about the person you are becoming through the process. Every time you choose action over excuses, you are building discipline. Every time you push through resistance, you are building strength. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you are building character. And those things, those internal changes are what create external results. Because success is not something you chase, it's something you become. You become the kind of person who earns it. So as you stand here right now, at this moment in your life, you have a choice. You can go back to what's familiar, back to the comfort of excuses, back to the habit of complaining, back to the cycle that has kept you stuck for so long. Or you can step forward into discomfort, into uncertainty, into growth. And that single step can change everything. Because once you commit to execution, you are no longer the same person. You no longer see obstacles the same way. You no longer respond to challenges the same way. You become focused. You become driven. You become relentless. And that's when people start to notice. They see the change in your mindset. They see the consistency in your actions. They see the results you're producing. And suddenly the same journey that once felt impossible begins to look inevitable. But by then, it's no longer about proving anything to anyone else. It's about proving something to yourself. It's about knowing deep down that you didn't let your excuses win, that you didn't settle, that you didn't quit when things got hard. Because that's what execution gives you. It gives you control. It gives you confidence. It gives you the power to shape your life instead of reacting to it. So stop waiting. Stop overthinking. Stop telling yourself that you'll start tomorrow, because tomorrow is just another excuse in disguise. Start now. Start where you are. Start with what you have. Take that first step, no matter how small it feels, and then take another and another and another. Build momentum, build discipline, build a version of yourself that doesn't need motivation to move, because movement has become your nature. And one day you'll look back at this moment, this exact moment, and you'll realize that this is where everything changed. Not because something external happened, but because you made a decision to stop complaining and start executing. And from that moment forward, your life was never the same again.